Hello, 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 America. It's the American Awakening Squad. Sides of life, folks from all around the country, coming to you on a Friday, May 1st. I know Marissa's excited. It's Friday, right, Marissa?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Lord. It's Friday.
Yeah. Somehow on our team, at least, it's come with a little more Friday energy today than normal, right? Seems that way anyway. Hope y'all feel some relief and release out there. It's crazy. We know it's crazy. That's why we show up every single day to bring some light and life and faith and hope and love to you from our team here and from musicians in Nashville. We got a great show for you with Leigh Nash and Hazeltine showing up from Nashville. Looking forward to that. But to get us going, we're going to kick it over to our house worship leader, Josh Jacob. Josh, bring it to us.
All right. Thank you, John. I'm feeling some Johnny Lang today, so I hope this is worshipful. Here we go. We'll meet at the river. We'll be delivered of every chain. Down into the water, children, mothers, and fathers, in His sweet name. To drown all our sins and come up again, forever changed. Ooh, never to return to the people we were before that great day. We'll patiently wait till we see His face. We'll be together in heaven forever on that great day. And when He appears to wipe all our tears forever away, forever away. Ooh, we'll patiently wait till we see His face. Oh, when He appears to wipe all our tears forever away. Then we'll be together in heaven forever on that great day. Ooh, on that great day. Oh, on that great day. Whoa.
That was good.
So good.
Thank you, Josh. So grateful. As I am every day, man. Thanks for bringing it for us every single day. Show up for your music renditions, if nothing else. So thank you. All right, Pastor Joel in Florida. Pastor Joel, what do you have for us, friend?
All right. Hey, everybody. So today I want to talk a little bit about how grace, God's grace and grace in our lives is both now and ongoing. And I want to start by telling the story that maybe you've heard, maybe you haven't, of the writer of the song Amazing Grace, John Newton. This story is told a lot, and usually it's told as like this little breathless story of how this guy was saved from a shipwreck and he turned to God and God saved him and he wrote this great song and he turned away from the slave trade and his life was amazing. And of course, we would all like for our stories to be like that. But the reality of John Newton's story is actually quite different. And I think it's really encouraging to remember the facts of certain people's lives and then apply them sometimes to our lives in a certain way. So what really happened with Newton's story is, yes, he had this storm that he survived when he was 23 in 1748. And that was kind of the moment where he says he turned to God. But he took 3 more slave voyages and continued in the slave trade until he retired because of health problems in 1754. And so then it was 10 more years before he became a minister in the church. And so you're talking about from his conversion to that point when he decided to like be a minister, this was at that point about 16 years. Now, it was another some years, I think about another 16 years. Yeah, it was 34 years after he left the slave trade under pressure from his friend William Wilberforce that he finally wrote a renunciation of slavery. So here's a guy whose story we tell as this miraculous transformation by God, when actually it was 34, 35, 40 years of changes in his life that led him to say in his heart, finally, slavery is wrong. I renounce it. I'm sorry for what I did and how I participated in it. And how much in our lives do we have that we wish would just go away like that? Problems, sins, hang-ups, depressions, things that we've done to people, we wish we could just fix it. But the reality is, while God has both given us grace in the immediate, that Jesus came and he gives us his grace, he is also giving us his grace in a process over our lives that begins to shape us more and more and more until ultimately we are, as Josh said in his song, going to meet him again. So be encouraged if your process of grace is not where you hope it would be or where you want it to be. God has given grace. Grace has come and will continue to come in your life. That's your daily dose. Back to you, John.
Thank you, Joel. Really appreciate that. It's such a good word to be reminded that it doesn't happen overnight, and somehow or other, most of us seem to take away the story that like it's supposed to get better fast. Well,
I wish.
A lot of time it gets better, but slow, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're all works in progress, man.
Lord help
us. In progress.
That's what I'm hearing.
That's right. That's right. One foot in front of the other, man. Works in progress.
And that goes in. It ties into the theme of today's show: living between the future and the past. Right? I mean, so we've got our past, and here in America and in the world right now in Corona, it feels like a uncertain future. Of course, inherently, the future is always uncertain, and we're always in flux. Not only the circumstances out there, but also who we are and what we're bringing to it. And we got to focus on the things we can control. And Joel, thanks for reminding us that the great stories sometimes take a while. So
it's real.
Yeah. Jeff, how are you doing there in Hawaii this morning?
Good, so good. If I sound a little stuffed up, it's because I am allergy season. Who mentioned that yesterday? But yeah, and so sounded like I'm a little underwater. But besides that, doing good. Appreciate you guys. Love that encouragement, Joel. And I'm even going to tweak what I'm going to say a little bit to, I think, piggyback on that. I wanted to share a quick kind of devotional thought for today for the Something to Chew On that I think totally is kind of symbiotic with what Joel and John were even mentioning. So I've been thinking a lot about lately how when Jesus, or at least when the gospel writers seem to want to summarize the message of Jesus, because clearly they have an agenda at some level. They're writers. We all kind of pick and choose and edit and kind of point in a particular direction. When they do that, it seems to be almost the opposite of how we do it, right? And what I mean by that is one great example. It's super easy. Matthew chapter 4, very beginning of kind of Jesus's ministry, kind of the announcement, the summary is coming of like, why is he here? What is he doing? And there's just one sentence, and it says basically after Jesus does a couple things to set up the stage, he says one sentence, and that's repent, the kingdom of heaven is near, or depending on your translation, it's at hand. It's really close. It's right there. You can reach out and touch it. And what's fascinating is like that's not just a quote from Jesus, but you can tell by the way Matthew's writing it, that's a summary of like, this is the message. This is the distilled course center of the message. And when you think about it, a lot of Western Christians, whether you're a follower of Jesus yourself or you've experienced Christians out in culture, sometimes we're very tempted in the West with our message to be the opposite of that. Ours is repent, the kingdom of heaven is really, really, really far away, and you can go there when you die. That's opposite. That's the exact opposite of what Jesus said. He said the kingdom of heaven is near, it's at hand. Now, what does he mean by that? The kingdom of heaven is this place where God in Jesus is saying, the place where he reigns, the place where he rules, the place where the full fulfillment of who we were created to be, how we were created to be, how we were created to be in relationship. It is not a place that's actually really far away, but in Jesus, it's exploding in the present. It's exploding in the now. And even John, you talked about this dichotomy of the future and the past. N.T. Wright has this kind of really beautiful riff where he talks about, Jesus was not, heaven is not this really distant, far off place in regards to physical distance, but it is a futuristic distance. And what he means by that is heaven is actually a glimpse into our future. It's a glimpse into actually where, when you follow Jesus and as image bearers of God, we're going, and that Jesus in the resurrection is kind of lassoing the future and pulling it into the present. So all future possibility we can actually begin experiencing now. Just like when you become a citizen under a certain kingdom, you start experiencing the blessings of that kingdom in relationship with that king and his mandates and his covenant and his constitution. And that's what Jesus offers us right now, that we, in this present moment, can step into that future age of blessing, peace, goodness, and the exact grace Joel talked about in this moment. And that restores relationships, that restores our hearts, that restores our creativity, that restores our calling. It's not something to chew on for today. Do you just think that heaven and blessing and all these things I'm talking about are just kind of this futuristic, you'll maybe get to it when you die, or that Jesus's offer is actually, no, I want to rip that into the present right now and start giving that to you day by day by day, because those are very fundamentally different visions. So that's something to chew on for today, and hopefully it encourages you.
Amen.
Good.
Lasso that into the present. That's good.
Yeah,
That's
that
good.
was that's a line I caught too. The lasso in the present line. I love that.
Yeah, Jesus is the ultimate cowboy. That wasn't NT Wright. That part was me. I riffed on his riff on that one.
Yeah, I didn't see NT going lasso.
Exactly.
The Brits are big on rodeo imagery, by and large, or at least the Anglicans aren't. So what do you if you want to apply that like in your heart and mind and perspective, Jeff? I'm totally tracking you and of course tracks along with the Lord's Prayer too, that kingdom come, that will be done on earth as it is in heaven, right? Which we all kind of get, but we don't get. And when you think about it, when that changes your disposition and comportment and view and prism and perspective, how does that apply practically, if you will, or is how do you grab that?
Yeah.
How do you?
That's a good question. I mean, I feel like the thing that I think of when I start thinking of this language and the difference of what Jesus modeled in the gospel writers versus how we kind of interpret it in kind of the enlightened Western version is, to me, it really messes with my idea of submission. You know what I mean? Like, I think if it's distant, it's far away, and it's in the future, then it's just like a choice and we'll just kind of see the benefits later. If it's this ushering in this kingdom now, then like I have to submit to that just like any other, citizen in a kingdom, right? Like if a king shows up and says, the boundaries are now here, do you want in? You kind of have to submit to that charter, submit to that government structure. And Jesus's kingdom is the most gentle and the most kind and the most, he never coerces. He actually says, by choice, I want you to submit. And he actually woos us into submission. I know it's a weird way to put it, but I think that's true, that, we want to offer our life back to him because he's the best king we've ever seen. And so for me, I think, then that just comes then with all of the Sermon on the Mount is a great example of kind of that what that charter would look like and how you begin submitting to that. But whether it's table relationships, how we forgive. So I mean, there's easy examples in there, you know, from anger to forgiveness to you know, all these different things. I think those are very easy, quick examples to say, man, this is how we can usher in the kingdom right now, right here in the present, and any place. Like just like if you're an ambassador of a kingdom, if you go really far away, but you still are an ambassador of that kingdom, you know, anytime you're submitting to that structure in any place, you're a representation of that kingdom as a kingdom citizen. So that's how I kind of think about it.
Wow. Marisa, I wonder whether, you know, we'll change up the order a little bit today and put Calvin's segment about now, you know, wow, that's happening off a little bit and jump right into your discussion topic. Because it almost feels like this is exactly what your discussion topic is. It's, you know, the past and the future in the big scope of things, right? I mean, I know you meant it a little bit more anchored and more immediate, but somehow or other it seems to be the same point. Is this now and not yet, bringing the kingdom of heaven near, all that sort of stuff. Is that reasonable?
It's definitely reasonable, and I will move ahead, and we will take in the discussion piece it from, you know, we'll go from sort of micro to macro.
Yeah.
We'll start small and we'll go big. So yeah, so again, everywhere, our cities and our states and our industries, everybody's trying to figure out how to move us all forward, right? States are opening back up. We're trying to figure out how to get back on track. We're trying to move forward. But it's interesting that as we've been sort of, you know, looking around out in the world, at least this week, there have been these sort of 3 very big things for everybody who loves sort of like TV and film that are kind of trying to drag us back into the past, and not unwillingly, because we all love these things. For instance, again, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air had a cast reunion on Will Smith's new Snapchat show, and you know, everybody came back except for the original Aunt Viv, because I never have her back, but everybody else came back and they did a video tribute to Uncle Phil, who passed away, and that was a lot of fun for folks. And then one of the greatest films of all time, I will, you know, anybody can try to challenge me on this, but they'll never win. The Goonies. They had the all-time like Zoom reunion on YouTube. Actor Josh Gad brought them all back together, and everybody was there, from, you know, the cast to the, like, you know, Fratelli's the bad guy, and then Steven Spielberg. Everybody was there, and so it was this like gift for all of us who are, you know, yearning for nostalgia. And then last night, if anybody caught it, the Parks and Rec crew came back after 5 years after their show ended, right? They did their sort of Zoom in the time of Corona show. And, you know, again, we all get it. Like we're all in some form of, some people might want to call this a traumatic season. Others of us are just saying this is really hard. And so people are looking to hold on to things from our past that are making us comfortable. Even the New York Times today had this feature about how there's a bunch of people who are trying to sort of unplug and get off TVs and stuff. And they're going way back to like some things from Victorian times. They're like, you know, drying flowers and they're dyeing things with like natural colors. And people are just going way back. We're trying to go someplace either we haven't been and we'd like to go, or we have been and there were, you know, it was easier.
I want to clarify for Jeff and Calvin that we didn't used to do that when I was a kid. That's even before, right? So, before when I was young, all right?
Yes, way back.
Way back before me.
Yeah, but so
I thought the Victorian era was the exact same. I thought I was tracking.
Man.
What was the thing I brought up a day or two ago? Frampton Comes Alive in 19.
Oh yeah,
and I'm like, for heaven's sake, that was like a million years before you guys were born.
That's amazing.
But yeah, you know, again, so we're in the middle of this tension. You know, we all want to be in a comfortable place, and most times we're looking back for that. I mean, you know, whether you're looking back in Victorian times or you're trying to make America great again, folks are trying to look back.
Yeah.
But this notion of, you know, sort of how we deal in the present, when our present maybe isn't the way that we want it to look, but we're not in the future yet. And, you know, one of our fun questions, since, you know, we're trying to do fun Fridays, but one of our fun micro questions is sort of like, yeah, like all of us, like what do you do when times are sort of not the way you'd like them, and you want to go way back to a comfy place, where do you go? Do you like reread books? Do you, watch your favorite movies? Do you like run straight for the mac and cheese? What do you do?
Definitely mac and cheese.
Definitely mac
Comfort
and cheese
food.
for you, Jeff.
Real comfort food, and then like the metaphorical comfort food of movies and books, like you said, which that's what it all is. I think we all want that comfort.
That's right. What are yours? What do you do? What are your favorite
for
movies?
sure.
Well, okay, mac and cheese.
No, Back to the Future, like I've already mentioned, hands down, and watch that all the time if I just want to. And that even gets in like an Inception moment, right? Because we're going back to the past, but then it goes to the future. But then we're the future they went to was 5 years ago, so it's the past, and it's crazy. So
I'm confused.
It's real.
Right? No, I mean, before everyone else pipes in, I would say just philosophizing it real quick too. I think just it's very simple that like the past, anything that we already know is controllable, stable, and able to like hold. Future brings a lot of anxiety because it's unknown. And I think that's the alternative witness we as Christians get to offer, is we are actually offering a very known future, a very particular like future brought into the present, which is very tangible, and you can actually hold it, that more than in the resurrection of Jesus, more than people think. So
what do you think, Pastor Joel? This tension. How are you?
Well, first of all, potato chips and Doritos and Pringles. I mean, those flavors, like the Doritos flavor has not changed in like 40 years.
Oh, that's a good point.
So
Cool Ranch is
when you're looking for
life-changing.
something to really plant your feet on, nacho cheese Doritos flavoring has really stayed constant.
Yeah, they won't change it on you.
No, it's for me it oftentimes eating, remembering my childhood, and it was full of snacking. But I think also for me is getting outdoors, because it's like the ultimate old, the dirt. You say if people old as dirt, it's because the dirt is old. It's like you get your hands down in the earth, and there's certain things that it's like it's old, but it's also brand new because there's things growing out of it, and there's like this beautiful, like I just love getting my hands dirty. I don't wear gloves when I garden. I garden almost every morning, and I just get down in the dirt and I dig it up with my hands. And this morning I transplanted a bunch of stuff for a friend, and it's like get down in the stuff, because you can just like. There's something about being able to sense the life in the dirt and in the ground. And then also when you see it coming up in new life, especially in the spring.
That's a really good word. That is a really good word. This notion of, if you find yourself in a season where you don't quite know what to do, get your hands dirty. And there's something in that sort of connects you to something larger than yourself. That's a good word, Pastor Joel.
All right.
That's good.
Thank you, Lord.
JK, you look like you were vibing with that too.
Oh, I am vibing with that. I don't do it enough, but I'm vibing with it. And that's definitely reminiscent of a theme that I try to remember whenever possible, but don't pull it in as much as I should, which is, embodied best by Gandhi and the spinning wheel. So Gandhi famously for his whole life spun his clothes, so however distant he got from like the essence of like life, putting your hands in the dirt like you do, Joel, his version of that was like, I'm going to just sit in a spinning wheel and go really slow and actually make my own clothes. And so I don't think it's like that. I mean, and I don't mean it has to be lofty like spinning wheels or hands in dirt, which not everybody can do, of course, depending on urban areas you live in or whatever. Not necessarily put your hands in certain types of dirt in cities. Not quite the same as the clean dirt of Gainesville, Florida, or Vermont. But everywhere you are, you could do something which is elemental and make it something which is bringing the holy into the elemental, because that does take you from the past, because we've always had to cook or clean, or we've always had to in some form or fashion, and we're going to have to do it in the future in some form or fashion. And it is a consistent thread about who we are as people. The more primal and more elemental, the better. I think Joel's is awesome, but there's ways we can all kind of find that. I think that provides comfort in ways that are perhaps a little less escapist. I don't know. Like I'm really big on escapist ones. I mean, believe me, I'm really big on escapist ones. This line we've been passing around as a team this week from Uncle Tupelo. You're gonna remember this one, Joel. Uncle Tupelo. I just learned this line this week. Do the readback, Joel. Give it to us.
You mean the whiskey line?
Yeah.
Oh man, I can't do it nearly as good as our brother Aaron. But
all right, I got it. Whiskey bottles over Jesus, not forever, just for now.
Oh,
That's
man.
That's escapism. But people have a lot of these things are like that, right? It's the comfort is good and it's not bad, for sure. It just is what's the ratio of like getting the comfort versus getting the anchoring. So anyway.
No, that's so real.
I went a lot of different directions there. Forgive me, but
no, but the very last thing you said, I mean, to pick up off that, I was thinking about that this morning. Again, I fell asleep on Parks and Rec last night, but it was so great to see them even just for a little bit. But this morning I was waking up thinking like, again, we all get it. Like there's nothing wrong with wanting the familiar and something that really felt good back in the day, but this idea of really just getting comfortable with like uncomfortability and knowing that like we're going someplace, like you might want to feel better now, but you're going someplace and you don't want to get stuck in the comfort of the now or the yesterday. You get stuck in that, you might miss what's coming, and what's coming will hopefully be better.
And to go deeper than that, even you said it wonderfully, but even deeper than that, tying it to Jeff's point, you're already in it. You just don't know it, and that, so you're already in that part, right? So you're in it, and we forget we're in it. We're forgetting. We're in the kingdom of heaven being at hand. I mean, we think we're lost aimlessly looking for comfort. I mean, believe me, I do it every day. Don't get me wrong, but if you really had your head fully around that idea that, and we're never going to get our heads fully around it, but our heads and hearts more fully around what Jeff was saying, then you're like, okay, I'm in a new kingdom and I can live in that joy and peace right now. Notwithstanding how bad it is, and it's bad. It's really bad in all the elemental ways we're talking about. So anyway,
yeah, no, that's good. Calvin, what are you thinking?
I think I too probably indulge in a lot of sources of I watch my fair share of Netflix. I eat my fair share of mac and cheese. But yeah, I'm gonna be real. I think what I've been trying to practice is actually further dissecting ultimately what the source of the comfort is. Like why is mac and cheese comforting? Why is Netflix comforting? Why is a familiar show comforting? And so, as I was kind of thinking about this question, I was ultimately thinking, if I think about something that does bring me comfort, is it something that points me to the ultimate source of comfort and promise? John, you were talking about the ultimate anchoring. So I think for me personally, what it has been is music. I think especially worship music. I listen to a whole lot of Hillsong and Bethel, and I know that one song that has kind of rejuvenated the promise of God's character and identity and his love for me has been the song "It Is Well" by Bethel. And one of the line, or a couple of the lines from it is, through it all, my eyes are on you. Through it all, it is well. And so I think there's something about, mac and cheese, it's good, and I indulge. Again, Netflix is good, but are there things in our life, for me it is music, that ultimately point us to a place where, okay, I can go into the storm, I can go into the uncertainty, because as much as we know the eternal, the certainty of the eternal, there's a whole lot we don't know between now and then. And so can we go into that unknown with these anchorings of where ultimately our comfort and our peace and our rest can lie? So,
well, Joel disagreed with you so harshly that he left.
I'm
so
sorry,
we all
Joel.
left. We're all here because we're amening you. We're agreeing with you. That's why we're still here.
For me,
that.
I take that this point that we're making, and as I do sort of thought experiments a lot for myself, and I take myself to like really, really hard places. The people have lived it in, right? Mandela in prison, Bonhoeffer in World War II in a Nazi prison. No, in the case of Bonhoeffer knowing his death was imminent. In the case of Mandela, thinking, well, what the heck? I'm never going to get out of here. And just thinking, well, what is it that people do to draw the heaven into earth in moments of in extremis? And you'd say, well, you know, like I know I'm not there, and I probably won't be there in the near future. Maybe not. Who the heck knows? But how do I bring that into today? And I mean, yeah, today's a little harder than yesterday, and I wish it was all easier for everybody, for sure. But it's not the same as being endlessly in a prison off of Cape Town or going to your death in Nazi Germany, right? It's not, you know, it's not that sort of difficult. But those guys managed to live in this sort of faith and hope, you know, somehow or other, that heaven was still with them. And I try to think, how did that work? How does it work for those guys? And how can I apply a little bit of that to myself today?
Yeah. No, that's good. I mean, Bonhoeffer he's been big in our world in the last couple of months. We seem to be meeting with folks from the, you know, Bonhoeffer Institute, and folks are reading. Joel, aren't you reading Bonhoeffer right now?
I'm actually reading The Life and Death of Bonhoeffer by Marie Bosquinet. Yeah, story of his life and death.
Yeah. Well, would anybody like to offer some tidbits, either, you know, Pastor Joel, JK, somebody? Again, if you are in one of those situations, what did he leave us with? What can we apply today?
You talking about Bonhoeffer?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, the action point that we were talking about earlier is big. He was like a man in constant motion, and he would not let the situations around him, which were way more dire than what we're facing, folks. I mean, they were after him, his life. Hitler was on the run. I mean, things were awful in all kinds of ways, and he just kept going. He hung out with his guys, his band of guys that he spent time with, that they're kind of like little upstart seminary, and he kept teaching, he kept writing, he kept moving, and kept active, and ultimately, like, refused to back down on the truth. A lot of people wanted to make a lot of compromises at that time, and he just refused. He just knew what was true, and he stuck with it. And I think that's really important.
Wow. Wow. I feel like we're 32 minutes now into the show, and we didn't do wow. So that's what's happening. Or we didn't do the movie line. We got to get to Nashville, but I could talk about this all day.
Hey,
but
this is a revival episode. We were preaching.
We were. There's some good stuff. I feel a lot better than when I came on the air.
Amen.
Me too.
So as always, it may not be good. This may not be useful for anybody out there, but it sure is useful for me. From Marisa and Jeff and Joel and Calvin and Josh, and now to hear from Dan in Nashville. Dan, what do you have for us, friend?
Well, hello there from Nashville, the land of comfort food. Here in the South, where I do believe, you know, whereas I understand that, Calvin, you tried to make a kind of a distinguishment between what is like mac and cheese versus what might be an actual spiritual positive kind of experience. And I would venture to say that that line must be blurred. They are one and the same. You cannot separate mac and cheese from the kingdom of God. It is one and the same. So,
you know, I think there's something there. I think if we ever dug into that, I think you're right.
I believe there are books, dissertations, scholars maintain that that's true. From Nashville here, we have an incredible guest again today. Every day that we get to be a part of this show, I am absolutely blown away and incredibly excited and humbled that we get to have the musicians and artists that we get to have that agree to come and be a part of the show today. No different. Our guest today is Leigh Nash. Leigh comes to us. She was, most people know Leigh from the band Sixpence None the Richer, and the song that was heard really everywhere, which was such a great thing, was Kiss Me. And Leigh has been, if I were to describe Leigh just as an artist, her voice is probably one of the most distinguishable in all of pop music. And she has such a versatile ability to take her voice into all different genres. As long as I've known Leigh, she's obviously done music with Sixpence. She's spanned rock and roll. She has spanned electronic music. She has dabbled in country and Texas country, and I do make that distinguishment because I do know that they are different. But she has collaborated with my own band, with Jars of Clay, at different points, and I'm a fan of hers. I'm a fan of just the music that she has chosen to cover, the songs that she has written on her own, all of it. And so I'm just really grateful to have Leigh with us today. So how are you, Leigh?
Good. Thank you for saying all that. And thank you for having me. This is my husband, Stephen Wilson Jr. He's also awesome. I say also as if I'm awesome.
You
I'm
are.
not sure that that's thanks.
Yeah. Hi, Stephen. Nice to see you here.
Thanks for all those kind things that you said. I'm a fan of yours too, and of all the work that you have done. And you're still young. You're still doing stuff.
Gosh, aren't we all? We're all young.
How beautiful is that? I know.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks for having us at such an interesting time. And I look forward to hopefully a time where we can look back at this and not laugh, but maybe laugh a little bit, but be appreciative and more thankful than ever.
Yes. Yeah. How are you guys doing out there? It's usually the first question I ask because I just want to get a read. Every artist has a different story of this season being incredibly creative, or just they're just really having to kind of white knuckle it through the whole season. How has this been for you guys?
A little bit of both. Definitely some white knuckling for me. I tend to be anxious. It's something that I battle with, and I have for a long time. So this, I'm sure you've heard this, we all have time and time again. For anxious people, even if you're not already anxious, this is very anxiety producing. And so I've had a really hard time, but I've also had times of clarity and of realizing how much more grateful and how much more grateful I want to be in this life, and walk through it more carefully and more intentionally. And so it's brought clarity, it's brought terror. There have been plenty of nights of not sleeping.
Yeah.
I've had a hard time. Creativity has not like come in yet, but one of my favorite songwriters in the world passed away a few weeks ago, Adam Schlesinger, from the band Fountains of Wayne. And man, that shook me to my core. And so if nothing else, that makes me want to keep writing and not turn away from the gifts that God hopefully has given me. And so that's been an inspiration in a weird way. I'm sort of like, I will not quit, and I will come up with more songs and be inspired by the work that Adam did while he was here. So
yes, well, it certainly has left a void. We've lost quite a few incredible songwriters and people who have done the good work of looking at the world and describing it. And we will feel that void. We feel it every day now. And I think you're right. It does drive any of us who are creative and write songs to have a new urge for, like, okay, how can we help fill some of those spaces and keep writing and keep that flow of good descriptions of life and people and the human condition all moving out there, so people can learn and feel things that they couldn't otherwise. So you're absolutely right. Good. Well, Leigh, I feel like I could talk to you guys all day. I really want to catch up more. We also know that we want to hear your voice. We want to hear you guys play some music. Would you guys be willing to play us a song today?
Absolutely. Yeah. Do you want I did a hymns record a few years ago, and we did this for like a webcast, whatever you call this. I'm so not technical, but we did this one for our church a few weeks ago. And it's from that hymns record. It's an old Fanny Crosby song with a new melody. So we'll do that one for you if that's okay.
Brilliant. Love to.
Okay. Oh, heart bereaved and lonely, whose brightest dreams have fled, whose hopes like summer roses are withered, crushed, and dead. Though link by link be broken, and tears unseen may fall, look up amid thy sorrow to him who knows it all. Oh, cling to thy Redeemer, thy Savior, brother, friend. Believe and trust his promise to keep you till the end. Oh, watch and wait with patience, and question all you will. His arms of love and mercy are wrapped around me still. Look up, the clouds are breaking, the storm will soon be o'er, and thou shalt reach the haven where sorrows are no more. Look up, be not discouraged, trust on whatever befall. Remember, oh, remember, thy Savior knows it all. Discouraged, trust on whatever befall. Remember, oh, remember, thy Savior knows it all.
Woo!
Beautiful.
That was powerful, you guys.
Yeah,
Great
it's
song,
great.
huh?
So
Very
good.
good.
That chemistry, it's like you guys are married or something too, you
I
know?
know. Barely.
Yeah.
That guitar
On
part.
web thread. I'm
Yeah.
kidding. I
No,
think
the
you're doing all
guitar
right.
part was awesome too. I love
Thank
that tone and sound.
Thank you so much.
So
Yeah.
good.
Thanks, Lee. It's I do want to just honor your vulnerability too on talking about anxiety, because it is a season where a lot of people are feeling
really
that heightened
is.
anxiety. Like there are so many drinking games, drinking bingo, that the word uncertainty is in different spots, and a lot of people are drinking way more than they should simply because of that word. And so we know that it's a season where everybody's really trying to figure stuff out, and I'm glad you're making it through that. That really matters.
It's so funny, and it's not funny, but how many people are also talking about getting their hands in the dirt and gardening and connecting with the earth. And I think that's part of this, and that's kind of a no-brainer. But I challenge you, if you're listening and drinking has become a little too close of a friend lately, like, try to plant something. I tried to plant something, and something got out there and ate every single thing I tried to plant. But I'll do it again, and it is really healthy.
Yeah.
Just to get your hands in the dirt and try to produce something. And so maybe put down the bottle and pick up some dirt.
Yes.
That's my advice.
I think you're right. I think
or a t-shirt right there.
I believe John Prine had a similar, right? His was more about the television, blowing up your TV. But he did say, let's go out and plant a garden and let's eat a lot of peaches. So
amen.
I think that's true. I also on the Fanny Crosby side, I think we had earlier, we had Jonathan Noel and Jonathan and his wife were artists, and they did an entire album of Fanny Crosby hymns, and they were fans of her work as well. So you're in good company.
What an incredible legacy.
Yes.
She left behind.
Yes. Hey, would you? I don't want to take too much of your time today, because hopefully you're going to enjoy the weather we have here in Nashville, and you are going to get to go out and plant something else. You guys, would you play one more song for us?
Oh yeah, if you've got time, we've got songs.
All right. Well, I would love to hear you guys play another song.
Okay. Yep. Absolutely. Let me. This is a new song that I wrote in the last couple of years with Connie Harrington. It's a true story.
Great.
I guess I won't waste your time with the ins and outs of that. You can take your guesses about what the story is, but it's called God Gave Me Horses.
All right.
He said, I've been locked up 14 months on misdemeanor charges. I got clean in county jail, but the lonely is the hardest. As long as I'm on good behavior, they let me work these stables. I never prayed a day in my life, but now I'm finally able. Sometimes you don't know what you need until you get it. And I didn't know what to ask for, so I didn't. I'd just brush them and I'd feed them, and the holes in my arms started healing. Oh, it's like they knew what I was feeling. The state gave me 18 months, but God gave me horses. He said it's funny how here I thought I was taking care of them. They know my voice come when I call. Yeah, these are my best friends. Haven't seen my father in 7 years. Too ashamed of what I was. When he visits me on Sundays now, he's proud to call me son. Sometimes you don't know what you need until you get it. And I didn't know what to ask for, so I didn't. I just brush them and I feed them, and the holes in my arms started healing. Oh, it's like they knew what I was feeling. The state gave me 18 months, but God gave me horses. Well, I've driven by 1,000,000 times, but I stopped today. I leaned against that fence to clear my head. And a stranger in his prison blues handed me the rings. Somehow I felt freer when I left. Sometimes you don't know what you need until you get it. I didn't know what to ask for, so I didn't. I just brush them and I feed them, and the holes in my arms started healing. Oh, it's like they knew what I was feeling. The state gave me 18 months, but God gave me horses. God gave me horses.
Yeah, beautiful.
So good.
Wow.
So
That's a
good.
powerful
So
song.
Leigh,
Amazing.
what that's new. So does this mean is that from a record that's out, or is that from something that's coming out?
No, it's out. I just before this whole thing started, I put out an EP called Get Happy. And so you can find that anywhere you get
Wow.
music. And God Gave Me Horses and a bevy of other songs are on it, including
Brilliant.
a cover of Get Happy. So thank
Excellent.
you for listening. Thank you.
Good. We'll make sure
Also,
that
did a
we'll let
neighbor
people
or
know
a
that.
walker by get a free show right there that you waved at?
I know.
Probably.
Yeah.
They're big trucks. We're out in farmland, so they're
Yes.
carrying loads and loads of dirt, and it's really
That's
loud.
awesome.
Sorry.
Oh no, we didn't mind. It was cool for them.
We didn't mind.
Yep.
We saw the nice friendly wave while you're
Yeah.
performing those.
Yeah,
It was
we
cute.
like to wave at him.
It's good. Do you so Leigh, one of the things that I remembered while you were playing was that you were actually the first time that Jars of Clay played the song Flood, which was kind of our big song, was at a club where we opened for you guys for Sixpence None the Richer in St. Louis, Missouri in 1994, maybe 93. So
That's
so it's
nuts.
incredible.
Before I graduated high school. That's
Yeah,
insane.
yeah, right. So we
I was 4 years old. That's awesome.
isn't that incredible? Yeah. So we're all
Leigh-
feeling really young right now, which is great.
Before you graduated from high school, Lee, you were on the road?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, my parents were just
That's
worried
cool.
about me in general, so they were like, "Yeah, just take her."
That's awesome.
My partner in Sixpence is a really, really sweet guy, and they trusted him with their daughter. And I wasn't
That's
doing very
cool.
well in school, so they were just like, "Yeah, take her. This must be what God has for her."
Wow.
Wow.
That's
It seemed to
cool.
work out okay. It worked out
Yeah.
okay, I think.
It's been all right.
All things considered, it
And
worked out
parents
great.
nailed it right there. Nailed it.
Yes.
Right.
Well, Leigh, thank you so much for being with us today. It's just as great. I'm glad for your voice in the world. I'm glad for all the music and songs that you've been able to be a part of, and
Thank
you've
you.
offered.
Thank you all
so-
for keeping people encouraged right now.
We will.
Thanks for what you're doing.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So,
All right, from Nashville, back to you, John.
thanks so much. And Lee and Stephen, I just want to say what you're speaking to, Lee, was exactly why we show up every day. We feel it too. We feel those night horrors or night tremors or whatever you want to call it. Everybody feels that to some extent. Some people feel it more than others. And that's why we show up every day, because we remind each other of the good words, the truth that the kingdom of heaven is at hand, and it's just lassoing it and bringing it back to us here. So thank you for sharing what your experience is. And to everybody out there who's feeling like Lee and feeling like a lot of us, we hear you. We feel it too. God's got you, though. God loves you. You're made for this time. You're made to transcend this time. You're going to get through this adversity, and you're going to redeem it. And it's all going to be good someday, somehow. But until then, keep fighting the good fight out there, and God bless y'all.
God bless you.